What's up, guys? Mason LeBrock Henderson here, and talk about a close call. Not necessarily like we almost lost, but we almost tied that. And there are quite a few things that played into that. I think the biggest thing of all, and this was honestly my concern going into the game, Tony Pulis knows how to set up his team to not lose. And honestly, I respect him as a coach. I respect West Brom and what they're doing right now. But I really don't like him or West Brom because they play really boring football. You watch them play, they're so defensive. They are so, every time Chelsea picked up the ball, 10 players back, every single time, no matter what. There were a few times late on in the second half whenever they started pushing up a little bit more because they could kind of sense that Chelsea were getting a little bit nervy with the ball. So that was the only time they really ever stepped up, and then a few minutes later, that's when we finally got the goal. But it was one of those games where I didn't really expect us to lose, but at the same time, I was really nervous that our winning streak was going to get cut by a tie here. And especially at home, you don't want a tie. But, it's a hard team to break down. They do all their defensive duties really well. Luckily, they made a mistake in that one moment, and Costa was able to capitalize on it. So, first of all, let's talk about the lineup, because there are two, people today in the lineup that I think a lot of people were questioning. One was Pedro over Willian, and the other was Matic over Fabregas. Surprisingly, I disagree with one of them, but it's probably, if you've been watching my videos, it's not the one you're thinking. I actually kind of agree with Pedro over Willian, just because I knew West Brom was going to sit in and really pack in the box, and Willian isn't really the type of player that's clever with his feet. He does the little cutting in and out and stuff like that, but you want a player in there that's going to play a quick little 1-2, and I think Pedro has that over Willian. Where Willian is stronger and is a lot faster than Pedro, Pedro is a lot more clever in tight areas. So unfortunately, he didn't do anything today, so that whole idea is kind of moot. But honestly, when I saw that, I'm like, okay, I can agree with that. Especially because we're playing Sunderland midweek, and I think because they're at home, they're going to be a lot more exposed on the counter. I think Willian will be perfect for that, so I hope he gets to play there. But I do disagree with Matic over Fabregas. Not just because, Fabregas played great against Man City. He would have been perfect from the beginning of the game to find that little ball in behind West Brom's defense, that little clever ball that we were needing. And honestly, that's all I could think the entire first half. Every single time Matic got on the ball, I'm like, if Fabregas were on the ball right now, there'd be something happening. But too many times Matic got the ball and he stopped on it and he was waiting, he was looking for a pass. And at that point now West Brom has completely closed off any gaps that they had. And it wasn't quick enough for him. And I think that's what Fabregas would have provided. He would have provided a little bit more cleverness there. He would have provided more whenever West Brom did get forward. He would have provided a lot more going forward. He would have picked it up, looked, maybe found Costa in behind. So I really do. I disagree with it. Obviously, it turned out well, but I do disagree with that decision from Conte. I think Fabregas should have gotten the start today over Matic. Sunderland are going to come at us most likely at their place, so Matic will probably be more useful in that game. But we'll see. Maybe he'll start Fabregas in that one, and he'll just constantly hit him on the counter. Who knows? It may be a brilliant idea. It may be my opinion, but I would have preferred Fabregas over Matic for sure. But let's talk about player performances. First of all, from Courtois, and honestly, I think pretty much the entire defense. Not much to say, mainly because West Brom didn't really threaten that often. They did have a few chances, not just, they had a shot from random. No, there were a couple close chances, but only a couple. Because honestly, like I said, West Brom were set up to defend. They were set up to be very defensive, not really attack us. So our defense didn't have a whole lot to do. However, I will say that David Luiz got challenged today by Rondon, and I thought he didn't look as solid as he has been looking. There have been moments where we've seen he gets turned on the counter or something like that. He has these moments where he's not really clever enough to see, okay, he's about to turn me, and so he just goes flying into the challenge, and then he gets turned, and now he's beat. Today, Rondon just bullied him everywhere. And because he's such a physical player, I don't expect that from him. I don't expect him to be pushed around. I expect him to push the striker around. So, I don't know. I was really disappointed with him today just because it looked like he didn't have control of Rondon. It looked like the other way around. And Rondon had probably the best chance for West Brom because David Luiz missed the ball completely when he goes to chest it. Now Rondon's in with Azpilicueta the only one covering. So just really disappointing from David Luiz today whenever he was called upon. From the other two, Azpilicueta didn't have a whole lot to do. He mainly got forward today and not really great with his crosses, unfortunately. And when we're trying to keep hold of possession and move West Brom around a lot, it's really disappointing whenever he just hits in a random cross that floats over everybody. And now West Brom have more time to waste. So I was really disappointed with Azpilicueta mainly going forward. Defensively, he's always solid defensively. Cahill, I know I've been ragging on him, and I've got some more things to say today because, once again, I've said this in some past reviews, when you've made some serious mistakes like he has, you expect him to not take any chances. He did today. There were moments where West Brom was clearly pressuring high. They were putting a whole lot of pressure on our defense. Get it out. Find somebody who's not under pressure. But no, Cahill has to try to turn the guy. He's got to do a little Cruyff and try to beat the striker that's putting pressure on him. Why take the risk? Why even risk the possibility of you cut it and the surface is just a little too slick and now all of a sudden, now the ball's away. Now they're one-on-one with Courtois. Why even take the risk? I don't get it. I don't understand why he thinks that's a good idea, especially considering everything that he's done before. So I was really disappointed just because there were too many of those moments where it's too risky from Cahill. Up into the midfield, Matic and Conte, I thought they both did okay. Like I said with Matic, going forward, he's not that strong. There are too many moments where he gets on the ball and it's too slow. He's looking for a pass, looking, whereas Fabregas picks up the ball, already knows where he's going with it. But defensively, Matic does do well, and Conte also does well. They're both just all over the pitch whenever it comes to defensive duties. West Brom looks like, it may be a counterattack, and then all of a sudden, Matic sticks a long leg out and pokes the ball away. Conte's there, bullies somebody off the ball. So they both do their defensive side of their job, and I do appreciate that. Alonso and Moses on the wings. Moses, I don't know if it was just because West Brom made sure to track those wing players, because I think that was their main job today, was just to focus on tracking Alonso and tracking Moses, because that's where a lot of our joy has been coming from, has been getting the ball out to them, letting them drive in or hit a cross to somebody. So I think West Brom knew that. I think Pulis instructed, they had some of those players just constantly tracking them, never letting them have free space. So, yeah, I think that was a big part of their role today, and I think it was pretty effective because Moses didn't really have a whole lot of time on the ball. It seemed like there were times where you couldn't really see Moses on screen, so I wasn't really sure if he just was being really tightly marked or if he was open and they weren't playing it to him. But he didn't get a whole lot of the ball today. Alonso did get the ball, but it felt like every time he did, there was never enough time for him to really do anything with it. It was always he picked it up and then he's being marked and he can't really pass it and then he's got to drop it to somebody. So I'll say West Brom did a good job of making sure Alonso and Moses weren't in the game at all. And it was effective, 0-0 until the 70-something minutes. So, yeah, I can see whenever they're not involved in the game, there's a lot less going forward for us. So hopefully we can find a way to sort of take some of the pressure off of them, maybe providing one of the midfielders stepping out, looking to work with them out wide, or even Pedro or Hazard stepping out there. Speaking of Pedro and Hazard, Pedro, like I said, not effective today at all. Too many times he just easily pushed off the ball, way too weak in the challenge. Still really disappointed that he can't do it. You feel like he's been in this league for almost a year and a half now. You think he would be able to work in the challenge. He'd be able to work under the pressure. He'd be at least strong enough to stand up under a little bit of pressure, but he's still not. You put in a little bit of a contact on him, and there he goes. So yeah, I don't know why he can't seem to get up to the level we need him to be. And then Hazard had moments. I think this was probably his worst game since the 3-4-3 switch. And it's not like he's not his best still. You could see there's still times whenever he's taking on the defender, he's turning him really quickly, and then all of a sudden the defender's not there anymore. So he still has the ability. It's just there's so many West Brom players around him that he couldn't really do much about it. There's still a couple moments clearly where three players around him, and all of a sudden there are no players around him. It's just whenever he does that normally, he's beating three defenders. Today he was beating three midfielders, and then there's still like four defenders behind those three. So that was the biggest problem he had today. It was just too many players to take on. And then Costa, it's Costa. I said this last week about Conte. There are just certain aspects you attribute to certain players. Conte, I always expect him to put in good hard work in the midfield defensively, going forward with it. Costa, I always expect him to be working hard and just constantly putting the defense under pressure, and that's how he got his goal today. It's not often that you see him get a goal because he's putting the defense under pressure and wins the ball and goes and scores, but you see him doing that a lot. There are several moments in a match whenever you see one of the defenders has the ball in the middle of the field, there's Costa stepping to him, now he's got to play it out wide quickly, and that starts constant pressure from other players. Pedro will step up, Moses will step up, Hazard will step over, and then all of a sudden they have nowhere to go, and that's where a lot of our attack comes from. It's just that little counter after we win the ball back. Today, though, it felt like there wasn't a lot of moments where the defense for West Brom had it and Costa could just full out pressure them and force them to make a mistake. It wasn't ever like that. It was either we had possession, it goes out for a goal kick, and now West Brom kicks it down the field. Or if it is a shot or something like that, keeper has it or it's cleared out. So there was never a moment where West Brom had possession in the defense and Costa had that chance to run them down and put a whole lot of pressure on them. But that one moment where Fabregas is over the top and then there goes Costa, he's putting pressure on him, wins the ball from him, and then brilliant shot. I can't expect anything more from him. You just, whenever you watch him play, you expect him to put a lot of pressure. And even on the ball, he was doing quite a bit today. He's taking on defenders, he's beating them with speed, beating them with a little flick inside. He had one great run down to the end of the line, cuts inside, and then tries to cut it back to Alonso, who just wasn't ready for it. So, yeah, overall, very pleased with Costa's game today. Probably man of the match for me after winning Player of the Month last month. So, yeah, very pleasing from him. Then getting to the second half, like I said, I wanted Fabregas in, so the fact that he wasn't in instantly was kind of disappointing. But Willian was the first one to come on, obviously, for Pedro. Came in and did quite a bit, just more than Pedro was able to take on players with some speed. And while you can't really take on six players back to back to back, it does put the defense under a little bit of worry. And you could see there are times whenever he beats that first defender, now somebody else is having to step over quickly or else he's through. So it provides a little bit of worry for the back line, provides some nervousness as well. So I think there's just something about that adds to his game where Pedro, you're not really nervous whenever he gets on the ball because he's too weak to hold on to it. You just go and step in, knock him off of it. So Willian doesn't get knocked off as easy, and I think that really helped today. Then the next sub was Fabregas on for Moses, I think. And at this point, I believe they went to kind of almost a 4-2-3-1, maybe more like a 4-4-1-1 with still Conte and Matic in the midfield. Hazard and Willian were out wide, and Fabregas was in behind Costa or something like that. But to be honest, it ended up being more like a 4-3-3 with Fabregas dropping in a little bit with Conte and Matic, and then Hazard and Willian pushed up with Costa. So, it ended up working out. We got the goal, and then after that, that's when Ivanovic came on for Hazard and just went back to the 3-4-3 with Alonso and Ivanovic out at the wing backs. So at that point, the game was pretty much, it was West Brom going forward, and then Chelsea had the chance to hit them on the counter. We didn't get the second goal, but at that point, we definitely looked a lot more dangerous. And I mean, at that point, it was pretty much game over because West Brom didn't really look like they were ever going to get a goal. Even whenever the ball did come in on the cross, David Luiz is there, now Ivanovic is there as well, Cahill's there on the header. All of them are great in the air, and there was no chance really for West Brom to get on the ball. So, yeah, it was a good overall performance. Just took a long time to finally get that breakthrough, and I think the breakthrough could have come earlier if Fabregas was involved, but slight, little slight annoyance for me, but I'm still happy with the win. The one thing I was not happy about, though, and I hate to talk about it just because we got the win, it feels like it doesn't really need to be talked about, but the referee today was just terrible. I mean, the fact that Foster escaped this game without getting a yellow is just mind-boggling to me. I mean, we ended the first half with 1 minute of extra time. It should have clearly been 3. How many times did Foster go walk over to the ball, pick it up, and then 30 seconds later, then he's kicking it out? How many times did Foster get the ball after a shot, and then after 12 seconds, then kick it away? So many times that happened in the first and second half. And the referee, it wasn't even a warning from the referee. It wasn't even, all right, get on with it. Every time you hear the Chelsea fans calling for him to hurry up the play, you see some of the Chelsea players talking to him, and he's just sitting there like, okay, yeah, this is fine. It just didn't make any sense to me. And aside from that, some of the fouls that were being called, some of them were weak. Some of the yellow cards even were weak. I think Conte's was weak. I think forget who the first one for West Brom was. I think it was Chris Brunt came in on a challenge. It wasn't even really that bad of a challenge. Costa did make it look a little bit worse than it was, but he ended up getting a yellow, and that was the first yellow of the match, 11 minutes in. And my dad was saying, "Oh, that's scary." I mean, it is kind of scary when you see a yellow card that given that easily. It kind of worries you. Are there going to be a lot of yellows today? The only one I think for Chelsea though was Conte, and it was just a weak challenge. I don't even know why it was considered a yellow. It was hardly even a foul, to be honest, but I don't know. Some of the fouls he was calling were just very weak fouls. It felt like no need to call that, let the play go on. And then some of them he was letting go. So it's just a lack of consistency for me, and then not really letting the play flow. It was really disappointing. And then, of course, all the time wasting that ended up coming back to bite West Brom in the butt. But I had this image in my mind. You get to the end of the match, it's 1-0 Chelsea. They're holding on, just defending. 4 minutes of extra time. And then I imagined, what if it had been 0-0? Probably would have been like 1 minute. that would have been it. But anyway, long story short, it was a good result. Sometimes we have to grind out the win. Sometimes you have to work hard to get the 3 points. And there were a couple of moments today where if we'd been a little bit luckier, it probably would have been 3-0. But that luck wasn't happening today, so it took hard work from Costa. Got himself the goal. Brilliant 3 points. So looking forward to the game against Sunderland. Kind of worrying though, because Sunderland and Newcastle, the two Tyneside teams, they always seem to be our Achilles heel for some reason. I don't know why. They always seem to cause us some trouble, even when they're having terrible years. So we'll see what happens, but looking forward to see what's going to happen, what changes are going to be in the team, because it is so soon after this game. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What did you like and dislike about this game? What changes do you think should happen in midweek? Let me know. We can talk about, discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews. I'll see you at the next one. Peace out.